All right, so when we work out, I'm assuming the answer then is obviously no, you guys can't remember how to work out an estimated mean. What we have to do is this matrix. We have to multiply the midpoint of our amount paid in rands with our frequency, because remember, this is grouped data, so we can't actually work out an actual mean. So we've got to work with the midpoint of the amount paid in rands multiplied by the frequency, and that has to add up to the 309 Rand that was given to us in the beginning of the question. So this 309 that's over here. Right? Does that come, is that sort of coming back to you? You remember what I'm talking about? All right, so now we have to work out, let's just get a color that's a little bit darker. We need to work out the midpoints of all of these. Okay, so the midpoint, so in other words, when I say the midpoint, what you're doing, so you're saying the midpoint will be equal to 0 plus 100 divided by 2. So that will give you 50. So in other words, 50 times your frequency would be 7. Plus your midpoint, so that would be 150 times 12. Plus your midpoint would be 250 times A. Okay, we're going to keep going. I'm going to have to move this over a little bit. Let's carry on going. So the midpoint of the next group would be, so between 300 and 400. So that would be 350 multiplied by 35. This is really long matrix. I hope you've got lots of space. I'm just going to have to move this out the way. I don't know where those arrows came from, but anyway, never mind. Okay, let's just grab this and pop it over here so that we've got this information in front of us. Okay, where were we? All right, almost there. Plus. $450 is the next midpoint, multiplied by B, plus the last midpoint would be 550, multiplied by 6. That needs to go over what matrix? Anybody know? What will we do with it now? So we've multiplied the midpoint by the frequency. We're trying to work out an average, yeah, over 100. So what are we going to do with 100? We're going to put the 100 at the yes, that's it, Asipa. We're going to divide by 100. Good job. And we're going to make this monster equal to what? Okay, the 309 that we were given. Okay, so this has to be equal to 309. Let's see, someone's put something in the chat. Yes, Celindine, quite right. Okay, so now my challenge to you, Matrix, now that we've got that here, you simplify this equation, and then I want you to tell me what you get. Okay, so you either pop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. And then tell me what you get. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Let's just put this in the middle so that everybody can see what's going on. Okay, anybody got an equation in terms of A and B that they're able to share with us? Not yet? Do you need a little bit more time, Matrix? Is there anybody who's stuck and doesn't understand how to simplify this? Is anybody who needs a bit of assistance? Okay, Melokule, not a problem. Okay. Can you see, Melokule, in the numerator, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms, okay? One of them has an A in it and the other one has a B in it. So those terms would be unlike the others. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to work out what is 50 times 7. So you're going to do this on your calculator, okay, Melokule? You're going to say 50 times 7. That's it. So 50 times 7 plus 150 times 12 plus 350 times 35 plus 550 times 6. What number do you get, Melokule, when you do that? Benedict, you've got the right answer there. I'm just helping Melokule solve simultaneously now. Remember, you're going to solve that at Melokule. Okay, Benedict, go for it. So solve simultaneously, remember, with equation number 1. Perfect. Okay, so Melokule, I agree with you. We've now got this massive number, 17700, right? Plus, we've got this term over here, which is an unlike term. So we're going to add 250A. Plus, we've got this unlike term over here, which is 450B. All of this is over 100. So now we can cross multiply. Okay, Melokule, I'm going to do that in one step. Okay, I'm going to multiply the 100 at the bottom with a 309 at the top. Okay, I'm cross multiplying. So that's going to leave me 309. Yes, Luyanda, you got it. Beautiful. Good job. Okay, so now see if you can do the same as Benedict, Luyanda, and see if you can solve simultaneously now. I'm just helping Melokule. Okay, so this is going to be 30900, Melokule, once we finished cross multiplying. And then I don't know if you can see in the chat what everybody else is doing, but they're leaving the 250A plus the 450B on the left-hand side of the equation. And then they're moving the 1770 over to the other side. So they're subtracting it from the 30900. Okay, so we get 250A plus 450B is 30900 minus 1770. I agree. I also get 13200. Melokule, how's that? Is that better? Thumbs up, thumbs down. How are you feeling? Okay, you have understood. Okay, Melokule, I'm glad to hear that. All right, so Benedict, what did you get as your answer for A when you solved simultaneously? Did you get an answer for A, Benedict? $52.8. Yeah, Benedict, I don't think we were supposed to get that. It says here, so it says show that A is 24 and B is 16. Okay, well, let's see if we can figure out where we've gone wrong. Okay, so Benedict, did you, well, I suppose the easiest thing to do here is to solve by substitution. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one we work with. Okay, so let's say we take equation number 1, and let's say we decide we're going to make A the subject of the formula, right? Which means that A will be equal to 40 minus B. So now I'm going to take 250, and in place of A, I'm going to write 40 minus B plus 450B, and that's going to be equal to 13200. Is everybody okay with that? All right, so I'm solving by substitution. I've rearranged equation number 1 from up here, and I've made A the subject of the formula. And now I'm taking equation number 1 and I'm subbing into equation number 2. So now I've got 250 times 40, which leaves us with 10,000. Minus 250B. Is this what you had, Benedict? Plus 450B equals 13200. Okay, and if I've got minus 250B and I add 450B, then it means I must have 200B, right? So I've got 200B on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I have got 13200 minus 10,000. Which leaves me with 3,200. You get 16 now for B. Let's just have a look if that was. Woohoo! Well done, Benedict. That's perfect. That's exactly what we were supposed to get. Okay, so I hope I'm going to get 16 too. Divided by 200. Yaha! Okay, cool beans. All right, we've got it. Okay, Matrix. Perfect. Everybody happy? How are you feeling? Talk to me. Making sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Cool, Michaela. Thank you. Good, Atan Corsi. I'm pleased. Caden, lovely. Leander, I got it. Lekker. Nice. Well done, Timothy. Nice, Selindile. Well done, Selena. Good job, guys. Very nice. So yeah, now it's easy for us to work out A. We're just going to use that other simple little A plus B equals 40. So let's just finish it off. A plus B equals 40. So that means that A has to be equal to 40. Take away 16, which is going to leave us with 24. Okay. All right. Sure, 5 marks for that. Just goes to show how creative the examiners really are when it comes to these questions. So here's something from grade 10, a question about estimated mean, not something that we think we're going to be asked, and yet somehow they managed to ask a question where we've got to do a simultaneous solution. All right. So yeah, 5 marks for that. How's everybody feeling? All good, I presume. Yeah, let's finish this off then, Matrix. Where's our information? There it was up there. Okay, so we've done 2.1, 2.2. Okay, 2.3, write down the modal class. So let's just pop these values in here. Anybody know how we work out which class is the modal class? What are we looking for specifically? How do we know which one is the modal class? The modal class is the one with the
highest frequency.
That's it. Well done. Okay, so it's the one with the highest frequency. Good job. So that's going to be the class that's between 300 and 450. Okay, so where x is greater than 300, but smaller than or equal to 400. Okay, good job. Okay, and now they want us to draw the ogive. So I've got that over here. Okay, so before we draw the ogive, what do we have to do, matrix? There's something we've got to do before we can draw our ogive. And I mean, obviously, this would be on your answer book. There would be place for you to be able to do this. But here at Watobe, we're obviously going to have to independent variable. What's going to be your independent variable, Melokule, in this case? Yes, we need our cumulative frequency. Quite right. Okay, so independent variable is going to be what goes on the x-axis. So that's going to be the amount paid in rands. But yes, Luyanda and Asipe, quite right. We now need our cumulative frequency. That's going to be our dependent variable. That's going to go on the y-axis. So now the big question becomes, how do we calculate cumulative frequency? So I'm going to draw an extra column over here. Please forgive my terribly skew lines. You guys can do the same. Okay, and this here is my cumulative frequency. Okay, so I get cumulative frequency by adding. So in the first row, I've got 7. And then I've got to say 7 plus 12. So that means I'm going to end up with 19 over here. Then in my next row, it's got to be 7 plus 12 plus 24, or 19 plus 24. So that means that in my third row, I've got to have 43. Okay, so cumulative frequency, it is accumulating through addition. In the next row, I've got to say 43 plus 35. That's going to give me 78. 78 plus 16 is going to give me 94. Whoopsie. And 94 plus 6 is going to give me 100. And that's exactly what I expected, right? Because they told me in the beginning there were 100 people that took part in this survey. All right, so your cumulative frequency has to add up to the value that they gave you in the beginning, the number of people that took part, right? So what we're going to do is we're now going to plot the ogive. Anybody know how we plot the x-intercept? How do we know where to plot the x-intercept? Or how we plot x, what's our x and what's our y? Anybody know? Okay, so we're all a little bit, what's the word? Rusty from grade 11. Okay, so when we are plotting cumulative frequency matrix, first things first, this value over here, let me just get a different color. This one that's given to you here. Now, come on now. Sorry, hold on, let me just get rid of that. Okay, so in this particular question matrix, it's possible for us to start at 0. Okay, but it really depends on the data. If you were talking about data where it's not possible to start at 0, so let's say like something about like the weight of, you know, a sample of matric learners or the height of a sample of matric learners, we're not going to start at 0 because people aren't going to weigh 0 kilograms and they aren't going to weigh, or they aren't going to be 0 meters tall, right? So this value over here, the 0, plotted against this. Sorry, not plotted against that. Sorry, plotted against 0, just get rid of that, is going to be our x-intercept. Okay, so this would be the x. And because we're plotting this point on the x-axis, your corresponding y is obviously always going to be 0. So our first point in this case is going to be here at 0 and 0. There. Then when we plot our values for our cumulative frequency, we are plotting, let's get a different color. This value here, our upper bound against our cumulative frequency. So this is the x, and that's the y. And same story over here. We're going to plot 200 against 19 and 300 against 43. All right, so as follows, I'm going to bring this up here. Maybe it's better putting it over there, then it's at least in the middle of the screen. Okay, so we've got, okay, well, it disappeared now, but there we go. We've got our 0 and 0. Now I want to go along to 100 and I want to go up to 7. So 7 would be 2, 4, 6, 8. So 7 is going to be somewhere over there. Then I'm going to plot along to 200 against 19. So that will be just there. And then I'm going to go along to 300 and I'm going to plot that against 43. 42, 3 would be somewhere over there. Then I'm going to go along to 400 and I'm going to plot that against 78. 72, 4, 6, 8 would be there. 500 against 94. 92, 4. There we go. And then the last one would be 600 against 100. Okay. Now you're going to be able to draw this a lot better than I am. But what you should be getting when you draw your ogive is a graph. Your ogive should be S-shaped. So when I say S-shaped, I mean like this. It should do something like that. Okay, it needs to be a smooth curve. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this very well using my pad, but anyway, I'm going to do my very best. And I'm going to try and join all my points. Okay, with one smooth line that tapers off. Okay, like so, matrix. Okay, so let me ask how you guys are getting on. Does this make sense? Is everybody okay? I know obviously you don't have that ogive in front of you, but this will be on your answer book for paper 2. So you won't have to redraw the axes. You'll obviously just have to plot the points. Are there any questions, Matrix? Is everybody okay? Yes, Melakuhle, all fine. All good. Okay, Benedict. Good job. Thanks, Danero. Okay, Michaela. Good. Okay, Timothy. Good job. All right. So now the last question involves us. It says determine how many people paid more than 420 Rand for their cell phone contract. Okay, so now what we would have to do now, what I'm gonna do, because this is gonna be a little bit more accurate than what I've drawn. Where is it? Hopefully it's here. Okay, so just so that you can see as well, Matrix, this is where your marks would be awarded. So it has to have an x-intercept. So where I had said at 0 and 0. So this value over here, just to go through this one more time, okay? It'll always be 0 here because that's going to be the y coordinate, and your y coordinate on the x-axis is always 0. But this 0 over here, the one on the left, the x, that comes from the value that is the smallest value in your table. All right, so the smallest lower bound in your table, and it has to be grounded, so it has to have an x-intercept. Right. And then they've given you a mark for the 600 and 100, cumulative frequencies for the y, and then obviously a smooth shape would be the other thing that would be important. Okay, so the last question says we had to work out the number of people that paid more than, what was it, 420 Rand a month. Okay, so what they would want you to do is they would want you to use your graph to be able to answer this question. So you would take your ruler, obviously it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me because I don't have a ruler, and you would go to 420. So 420 would be this line over here. Okay, so I'm going to go to 420 and I'm going to go, I'm going to go up. All right, and now I want to read off how many people that corresponds with. Okay, it corresponds with roughly 80 people. So anybody that paid 420 Rand or more is going to be the remainder of these people over here. So now if I come back here, that would be 100. All right, so it would be roughly 100 minus 80 or 100 minus 82. I suppose it was a little bit further over here, but you would be able to see this a lot more accurately on your cumulative frequency. Yeah, it is definitely a little bit more. My line has gone skew. Okay, so 420, that would be this line up here. There. Yeah, so that is, it's a little bit more than 80. All right, so as you can see, when they get you to read off your graph, they are lenient to a certain degree. They would accept anywhere between 80 and 84. All right, so roughly 18 people paid more. So you'd be subtracting the 82 from the 100, and then you'd get a mark for your answer. Okay, oh, hang on, let me just look at the chat. Okay, everybody's thumbs up. Okay, is that making sense, Matrix? All good. Any questions? Okay, let's fly into the least squares regression line. I'm going to go down here. Okay, so this is the focus. Unless there are any questions, please do stop me if there's anything else that you want to ask. Okay, so in Matric, the focus is on bivariate data. So the word bivariate means two variables. So in other words, they've plotted something against something else. So in this case over here, this question comes out of the 2020 paper. So just to be able to explain and talk about things, I think it would be nice for us to go through this. All right, so bivariate. So in other words, maths marks and physical science marks. What they've done is that they've taken these marks and they have plotted them on the scatter plot. So in other words, they're plotting X against Y. All right, so if we have a look at our scatter plot over here, 26 against 34. So 26 would be somewhere over here against 34. That would be this one over here. Right, so that's this point. So this is your X coordinate. This is the X, the top row is always going to be the X, and this is the corresponding Y, and they've plotted these points as such, right? Now, either they can do that for you, or they can ask you to do it, right? In this particular case, they've already gone and plotted the points. And now they're going to ask us questions about them. So the first question that they're asking us is to determine the equation of the least squares regression line. So when we determine the equation of the least squares regression line, we have to use our calculators, and we're going to have to input all of that data. All right, so here is the equation of the least squares regression line. That is one of the formulae on your formula sheet, so you don't have to remember it. But yeah, y hat equals a plus bx. So b is essentially the gradient of the least squares regression line, and a would be the y-intercept if it actually existed. Okay, so now very quickly, we've got to do this on our calculators. Everybody got their calculator with them? You've got to be super careful in the way in which you input this. It's just long, it's not particularly difficult. All right, so turn on your calculator. Oh, wow, Melekule, you've already got the answer. Good job. Anybody else get the same answer as Melekule? You did. Okay, Atunkosi, well done. All right, so clearly I don't need to explain how to work out the equation of the least squares regression line, or do you want me to? Same Cheeto, you got that. Good job. Let's have a look. Yeah, quite right. Okay, so A was 9,5. Luyanda, you want me to explain it? Okay, B was 0,91. Okay, while I'm explaining to Luyanda, the rest of you are welcome to carry on with these questions if you want to. Okay, so it's a little bit difficult, fair enough, because you don't have this in front of you. It is difficult for you to answer the rest of the questions. All right, Silindida, so you wanted to know what to do. Okay, so very quickly, all right, on your calculator, once you've turned it on, go into mode, go into statistics, which is option number 3. Now, you're not going to choose number 1. Number 1 is for standard deviation and for the mean. That's VAR. You're going to choose option 2, which is A plus BX. Choose option 2. Can you see Silindile and Luyanda? You have got now 2 columns. You've got an an X and a Y column. So these numbers for maths are going to be your X's, and the corresponding Y values are going to be your physical science marks. So you need to input those. So you literally, it's up to you whether you want to go across or you want to just enter down in a column, probably easier. So now in column X, you're going to press 26 equals, 62 equals, 21 equals, and fill in that entire column. So do that quickly. And then you would have to do exactly the same for the Y's. So you'd have to toggle over and go up to data piece number 1. you have a frequency section. I'm not sure I understand exactly what you mean, Luyanda.
Ma'am, I'm saying when it comes to the 3 columns, right, after pressing 2, I have an X column, a Y column, and then a frequency column.
Oh, you must have turned something else on the calculator. All right, so Luyanda, don't worry about that frequency column. Hopefully you'll still be able to do what we need to do, even if it's there, okay? So now you're going to press AC Shift 1. All right, and now you want to choose the option, it's option 5, REG. So press 5, and you should come up with other options, Luyanda and Silindile. They should be, number 1 should be A, number 2 should be B, and number 3 should be R. What you should do at this point is write down A and B and R, all right? Because they're always going to ask you about the correlation coefficient. That's R. So just write it down at this point. So if you press 1 and you press equals, you should have got the values that the others were talking about. You should have got the 9.5 and the 9.1. Is that making sense? Are you getting these answers? Okay, so you should have got that. You should have got good stuff, Luyanda. So you got A is 9.5 and B is 0.91. That's the gradient of the line. And then they would obviously expect you to write it. Okay, so you would be expected, let's just move this out the way. Here's my pen. Okay, so the equation of the least squares regression line, in this case, it is the line y equals 9,5 plus 0,91 x, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so now you would need to draw the least squares regression line onto your scatter plot. Right, so you would need to fit it onto the data. Okay, it's got to go through 2 of the points. So which 2 it goes through is sort of up to you. What's important is that it does not touch the x-axis. Okay, it's only going to be drawn between your smallest data point and your largest data point. Okay, so any 2, and you can see in this case, they've chosen this one over here and that one over there. And it does not go smaller than your data point or greater than your biggest data point over there. Okay, so going through 2 points, 50 and 55, or 40 and 46, or 60 and 64, or 0 and 9,5, or 45 and 50. Everybody happy with that? Let's see if we can get this finished before. Now they want us to predict the physical science mark of a learner who achieved 69% for maths. So either they can expect you to read this off the graph, or you can use the equation of the least squares regression line. All right, it would be up to you. Clearly, you would have a more probably a more accurate answer if you subbed into the least squares regression line, but if you wanted to read off the graph, that would also be fine. Okay, so they said to us a mark of 69% for maths. Okay, so 69% for maths. Let's just move this out the way. Okay, so if you wanted to predict using your line, you would have done this. Obviously, you would need to get a ruler. So 69% is going to be over here. And you are going to draw a straight line, not like me, a straight line up to the top over there. And then where it touches your least squares regression line matrix, you're then going to read that. Wow, that's terrible. Read that value off over here. So that would be one way. You must, if you choose to read off the graph, you must show that you've decided to do that. Otherwise, it's 0.91. Benedict. Okay, round to 2 decimal places. Or the other way that you could do this is you could sub in. So this is 9,5 plus 0,91, and we wanted to sub in 69. Okay, indeed, Silindile, indeed, Luyanda. Okay, 72,29%. Okay, so it's allowing us to make a prediction. Okay, so if somebody got 69% for maths, it's likely that they would have ended up with 72.29% for their physical science exam. All right, there's a relationship between what they get for maths and what they got for science. Now, we can talk about how strong this relationship is when we talk about the correlation coefficient. Don't know why these red arrows are here on our screen, but anyway, never mind. Write down the correlation coefficient between the maths and the physical science marks. Okay, so that was the R on the calculator. Anybody get a value for R that they want to share with us? What did you get R to be? Okay, so Benedict says 0,95. Anybody get anything different to Benedict? Caldaneo? Yeah, I also got 0,95. Well done, Michaela. Good job. It's over here, and this is where we were. Okay, then we need to comment on the strength. And can you see this is for 1 mark? Okay, so matrix, you've got to be super careful here. Sorry, I'm just putting this answer in as well. That was 72,29. Okay, so comment on the strength of the correlation coefficient. So it's only out of 1, all right? But there are 2 words that they want you to say. You've either got to say positive or negative, right? So if we have a look at our least squares regression line, we can see that there is a positive association because the gradient of the line is positive. The line slopes up to the right, doesn't it? Where is it? There's our line. Okay, so we can see that the line slopes up to the right, so it is positive. 0.95 is really, really close to 1, right? So what we would have to do here to get that 1 mark is we would have to describe this correlation as a positive, very strong correlation. Okay, to get 1 mark. What trend, last question, what trend did the teacher observe between the results of the 2 subjects? Anybody want to tell us what they're asking for? What is do we know what the word trend means? Do we understand what the question is asking us? I could not have said it better. Melokule, that's perfect. Well done. Good job. Okay, so the higher the marks in maths, the higher the marks in physics. Excellent. Perfect. Good job. Okay. So the higher the marks in maths, the higher the marks in physics. Excellent. Okay, good job. Okay, so let's go Okay, just as you had said. Okay, very strong positive correlation. And the teacher concludes that the higher the learner's marks are in maths, the higher they are in science. Okay, good job. So everybody's done well in that question. It seems to me as though you understand the least squares regression line pretty well. We've only got 8 minutes left. What I had decided, are there any questions? Sorry, before we carry on. Anybody got any questions? No, you sure? All right, so matrix, make sure that you learn, so like what's in the middle of the screen at the moment, make sure that you learn what values correspond with what correlation. Okay, so if they tell you that if you work out that R is equal to 1, which it probably won't ever be 1, then it would be a perfect positive correlation. Anywhere between 0.9 and 1 would be a very strong positive. Okay, but you have to say very strong. If you just said strong, they might not give you the marks. Okay, so make sure that in any textbook, make sure that you learn these and that you know exactly what the correlations are. You will always be asked to comment on the correlation coefficient. You will always be asked to calculate the correlation coefficient. You will always be asked to calculate the equation of the least squares regression line and then make predictions using that. Okay, so in whatever form or context it comes, that will definitely be a question that comes up. Let's just see. I don't know if there's going to be enough time for us to be able to do this. Oh, there are the answers. Let me just move that out the way. So we don't want that. Okay, but again, here, this was another question, same idea. I can't remember which paper this was from. I think this was the 2020 paper. So let's just have a chat about that before we go. The row at the top, matrix, so the monthly income, that is always going to be your X, in case you were wondering. And the one at the bottom is always going to be your Y. Okay, so this is always going to be, let's just get a bit of color. This is always going to be the X, and this is always going to be the Y that you put into your table. Okay, so they've given you the income in rands of 6 different people and the amount that they spend on repaying a vehicle. So again, can you see typical questions? Determine the equation of the least squares regression line. Then it says if a person earns 14,000 Rand per month, predict the monthly repayment that that person could make towards a new vehicle. What are they asking us to do there? They're asking us to use our least squares regression line and substitute in. Again, correlation coefficient is the next question. And then they've asked another question here where they've said a person who earns 18,000 Rand per month has to decide whether or not they should spend this. If the above information is true, decide which should be the most. Okay, so in other words, they're asking a question based on all this. But really, what I want you to see, matrix, is that it's the same sorts of questions that get asked every single time. So yes, make sure that you can work out the equation of the least squares regression line. You can work out what the A and the B are. You can substitute in, and that you know what the correlation coefficient is. Okay, unfortunately, there's not going to be time for us to do this particular question, but if you go online onto the Watobe app, you'll see there's plenty of questions like this where you could go and practice in the section under exam revision. Okay, matrix, and then obviously there's also a whole lot of stuff online on the department's website. Are there any last questions anybody would like to ask before we end off? Okay, Daneo, no problem. Was this helpful, matrix? Do you feel like you're in a better position than you were before we started? Do you feel like you've learned something? Was it good revision? You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, cool, guys. All right. Oh, well, I'm glad that you found it useful and good revision. Excellent. Yeah, I specifically tried to choose questions where I thought it would be things that we were rusty on. And then, yeah, I'll see you guys next time. We're going to talk about the fundamental counting principle, which obviously we know is probability. That's our last bit of paper 1. Okay, and then that's going to be on Wednesday, same time from 5 until 7, and hopefully then we don't have any load shedding or Zoom problems. Okay, but really, really well done, Matrix. Thank you so much for participating with me this evening. Really enjoyed this lesson with you, and I'm glad that you found it useful. Okay, and I'll see you all on Wednesday. I think maybe the mentor wants to speak to you, but we'll just check. Coco?
Hi Lee.
Oh, it's
No, it's Marilise. Hi everybody. Coco had load shedding unfortunately, so she's gone off. But well done, Matrix. And yeah, I think we can end it there, and we'll just see you again on Wednesday. See you then, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Luyando and Karabu. Bye, guys.
Bye, Leander. Bye, Karabo.